Hey guys, I want to welcome you back to Pistons Talk Podcast. We have a very special first time guest, Will Gottlieb from is it CHGO Bulls Podcast?
That's exactly right.
So,
Thanks for having me on, Anthony.
oh, no problem. I think the first time we ever kind of talked was locker room, if anyone knows what locker room was.
Shout
Way
out.
back in the day, way back in the day
Yep.
before Twitter Spaces was a thing. It's good to finally talk to you again.
Good to see your face. Locker room was all audio only, so we've evolved back to video in this world.
Yeah, for sure. With you covering the Chicago Bulls, I did kind of want to just get into your guys' off season. Felt like you guys got hosed in the lottery a little bit. The Cooper Flag thing still just kind of boggles my mind. Drafted a French prospect, Noah SOG, and I mean, like, what could you expect out of him this season? You think?
Yeah. To your point, the Bulls lost a coin flip that would have put them in the spot where the Mavericks ultimately were. So they lost with the Mavericks. They could have been the team that jumped up. Like there's so many losses or wins, I guess, that the Bulls had along the way, where it was like Kobe White's hair balled against the Knicks, and he made 3 free throws to win the game. The Josh Giddey half-court shot over the course of the season, you can't really like know what's happened. Certainly some bad luck there with the clip. But they ended up drafting Noah Essengay, who is the second youngest player in the entire NBA right now, 18 and a half years old. I think he is a little bit more productive. At least he was in Ulm in league. That team made the finals. He was really productive there. Draws a ton of fouls. Good athletes. 10, 6, 11. Pretty always like a little bit upright. But I think he'd be a little bit more advanced, at least defensively, than some people maybe give him credit for. And I think he knows who he is as a player, and so he sticks to that. Billy Donovan talks a lot about like playing within your box of your skill set and not trying to do too much. So he runs the floor. I do think it's going to be hard for him to rotation, at least initially, because there's so many guys on the roster. But I'm hopeful that we see some of this. He's one of the few young prospects that the Bulls have on their team that could be things going forward. So not too optimistic that we'll see him tonight against the Pistons in the opener, but hopefully as the season progresses, he'll get into the rotation.
Yeah, when I saw the coin flips, I know the NBA posts like the pre NBA draft, and I saw that the Bulls won. I was like, man, Cooper Flag in Chicago would have been great. Like, you guys need a first overall pick.
Yeah. They
I was
just
kind of
really
surprised.
need someone like that.
Yeah, I mean, Cooper would. I think Cooper marketing would have just been like killing it in Chicago. I mean, you guys drafted Matas Bazelis the year before. You guys have some intriguing players on the roster. One of the trades that I really liked for you guys was trading Lonzo Ball for Isaac Okoro, getting more of a defender. I mean, what did you think of that move this past summer?
He was an interesting one. The Bulls obviously have dealt with a lot when it comes to the ball in his infamous 2.5 years, and he was really like this one of the big team that just propelled. They were first place in the East in 2022, 21-22. But when you miss that much, it's hard to make kind of guy. They signed him to an extension right after the last trade deadline that brought the number down and put a team option on the second, really team friendly contract. And I think he makes a lot of sense for the Cavs, right? Like they lose Jerome, they need to turn Okoro into a player that can replace both of those guys defensively. Okoro gives you, but also offensively what Jerome gave you. And I think he can really do that. They bring him along so that he's available for the playoffs. I think for the Bulls, they were really looking for somebody who can add physicality, who can be sort of a defensive anchor on the perimeter. They are a team without a lot of good defensive personnel. I mean, there's some that can do it. Matas Bazelis is a rim protector. Ayodesumu, pretty solid at the point of it, but they just need more bodies there. You can't really play in today's NBA without being physical and playing with a ton of effort. And so I think that they're hoping Okoro can sort of be that guy. He pretty well from the corners over the last couple of years, and hopefully he continues to expand his game there. He's better. I think he's just a smart player. So he'll, himself with the team and hopefully evolve into a role. But I do have his fit and just with the shooting, how the Bulls are going to be able to have enough offense on the court. So we'll see how it all plays out this year. But I do get moving off of Lonzo. I just kind of think that they should have gone the draft pick route, but that's really not going to do that. They're going to go for it every single year. Draft picks be damned. They're going for, playing competitively, and they're going to do that as they try to turn over this roster.
I mean, for the amount of guards that you guys had, I was just like, I kind of like the process of it because he's a good defender. I feel like you could use him in just dunker spot situations. You could use him in backdoor cuts. I felt like, one of his best years was actually under JV Bickerstaff in Cleveland, where he had a pretty good volume from three. I've always liked Okoro from afar, so I thought the trade itself was actually pretty solid. One more question I did want to ask you about the offseason. Josh Giddey. I feel like a lot of these contract extensions with these players that are on rookie deals, they just, especially this summer, they really dragged out. Don't know how true the reports were that he did want $30 million. I think he did settle for 25. Were you kind of surprised that it did take that long, and how these contract extensions have gone with his draft class?
Yeah, there just wasn't a lot out there this summer, and then of restricted free agency teams can just match any offer sheet. There really was not any incentive, and it got to a point where there was just no other teams that could make an offer. So I was a little surprised how long it took. If the Bulls were going to come up to 25, I feel like had they done that sooner, something would have gotten done sooner. I feel like it's a fine deal. Like it's going to be value throughout. Especially years of it when he really is the entire offense. I have questions about how good a team can be if they're led by Josh Giddey. Hopefully the Bulls are able to use his small salary, relatively speaking, to put around him. He definitely wanted 30. I think the Bulls had to hold firm at 20 and then also let up at the last minute. I don't know that they really needed to do that, but like I said, I mean, it's not going to be a bad contract. I just think they could have gotten him on a better deal to manage the ego. You do have to, make sure that he's excited, and an additional $1 million a year is not gonna. It's just that it wasn't the best possible deal that they could have gotten, and I think they were in a position to get something a lot better.
Yeah, I'm still kind of surprised over the Caruso trade. Like, that's all you guys got. I thought you would have at least got some draft picks, but I feel like Josh Giddey is a player, especially after the All-Star break. He really turned a corner. I know you talked about earlier that buzzer beater against the Lakers. I still remember Lakers fans crashing out after that game. It was honestly hilarious to watch, but I've always liked Josh Giddey. I think he's a good player. Just the way that these contracts have been given out. I mean, here locally in Detroit, like, we didn't give Jaden Ivey or Jalen Duren a contract extension. And, people that aren't Pistons fans or even Pistons reporters believe that, they could be gettable. They could be on the open market in terms of possible trades at the deadline. But I felt like your guys' offseason was pretty solid. And the next question I did want to ask you is what do you think the expectations are for the Chicago Bulls this year? You think it's going to be just try to make that play-in tournament, or do you think they want to try to get up to at least a top 6 seed in the East this year?
I think they would love to be a top 6 seed. I don't know how realistic that is. You mentioned the offseason. There weren't a lot of moves to be made just because so many players that were still under contract for the year before. So once you bring back trades, pretty much the only available roster spot was one for Josh Giddey. And so you're at a point you can't really do a whole lot there. I think that this is going to be a pretty big year for the terms of evaluating their young core. Is this a group that is going anywhere? If then maybe you do start to build on things. You do use your upwards of $80 million in cap space next year. Maybe you're going after a restricted free agent like Jalen. You just throw a big offer sheet at him to see if the Pistons will match, and now you've got your potential center of the future there. I think that this is going to be a big have to evaluate things and determine whether that's worth moving forward with. And if they're the top 6, I think they'd be thrilled. I think that would join them to make that kind of a move. If not, I don't know how it'll shake out. Obviously, the White injury puts the start of the season in not so great spot. They've got some really tough games out of the gate. But I think if they get to the trade deadline and they're not 10, 15, 20 games under 500, they're going to just push through the finish line and what they do. So we'll see how the actual plays out, but they're in a position now where they have turned over the roster from the DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and Alex Caruso, and they just have to figure out like how real this is. If he's in 15-5 last year, they were very that. Even though they lost in the play-in, I think they're trying to carry over that momentum. See how well they play.
Yeah, I really thought towards the end of the season they really, turned it on. Like I've always been really high on Colby White. It didn't surprise me you guys traded Zach LaVine because he's just as productive for like 80% less of his salary. I think Josh Giddey's interesting. I think in a weakened Eastern Conference, I could see the Bulls kind of, being around that 8 to 10 seed. I'm intrigued with some players. I'm really curious what you guys do with Nikola Vucevic. I thought there was a good opportunity to trade him last deadline. What do you think his future is with Chicago?
He'll be here this year. I just don't think that, like, think about the Bulls' incentive structure. They're a team that wants to compete. They're a team that wants to be good. And so they got like an offer that they couldn't refuse for him. They would take it. But, 35-year-old center, the best shooting season of his career. I just don't see a lot of teams being willing to give them a first-round pick or a young player built with moving forward in a trade. And so they're not going to get a good player, the player that can help them. I don't see them willing to take a step backwards in that way. A lot of people have been talking about a buyout. I don't really see the ownership group doing that. I don't really see a lot of suitors out there for him, just with the way that teams are building right now. Like, they're not spending $20 million on, a low-end center or a high-end backup center. And so I think he'll play out this year, and I think he'll become a free agent, and hopefully for him, go and sign a contract with a team that's ready to compete, where he can help them and try to win a championship next year. But I just don't see a move, and maybe an injury chat, but I don't see a move right now where a team would come in with a big offer the Bulls can't.
Yeah, I can understand it from that perspective, especially with Chicago. I feel like in one situation, like, they're dipping their toe in the rebuild a little bit, and then other situations, it's like they want to push for, the playoffs. They want to be competitive. But I mean,
building while competing. That was the quote from Archivist at Media Day.
Oh, it reminds me so much of the Pistons. Like, we'd make the 8th seed, and then we'd get the 8th pick, and then we just did it for so many years to the point where when we did rebuild, it was ugly because we had nothing to start from.
You're starting from scratch, right?
Oh man, I mean, I remember being in locker room chats with you. We're talking about Patrick Williams or Killian Hayes at 4, and it's just like, man, like that didn't really. Yeah, how far we've come. But I mean, kind of previewing the game tonight, I really don't know what to expect. I know when the Pistons did play the Bulls a couple of times last year, especially after the All-Star break, I didn't recognize the Bulls. I mean, I'm sure you were watching those games where it was like a 50-point game. Like, what are you expecting opening night with Chicago? Do you think they're going to come out focused and make sure that doesn't happen?
I honestly think that Pistons game for the Bulls last year, they lost by like 40 something, high 40s, I think.
Yeah.
And they just got completely physically dominated in that game. Like, Duran, Asar, are all these dudes that are way more physical, way more athletic, and they were just running them up. And I think a flip switch for them after that game, where they did start with physicality with more pace, and that's really the identity that they're trying to carry over to next season. I'm not sure how much of that is something that you can like teach or improve on as compared to that just you have or you don't. So I'm curious to see how the Bulls will try to sort of bamboozle teams with their speed, running off of makes and misses, getting the ball off the court as quickly as possible, regardless so that they can get in offense, no matter whether the other team is picking up full court, and they're just going to try to outrun you. I don't know if that works against a team as physical, offensively dominant as Pistons. Like, you just put Asar on Josh Giddey, take him out of the game, and you're playing 4-on-4. And I just don't know that the Bulls have the offensive firepower to compete. So we'll see. I do think that they are. Some people give them credit for, and maybe a little bit worse than this. But if they have a hot shooting night like anything in NBA, I just think the Pistons are a particularly tough matchup.
I know they are a little banged up right now. Like, Marcus Sasser's probably not playing. I believe Karis LeVert is probable. might see a former Bull Javonte Green. Like, I honestly think he's going to get a lot of clock this year. So,
Javonte's awesome.
yeah, it should be a good game. I mean, I've never been around a guy that vocal before because he's a pretty vocal guy for sure.
Yeah, I think just with the way like the Pistons are built too, they don't really have the Bulls don't really have a player that can get in on Cade and take him away. I think Okogie going to be the guy that they throw at him, but Cade's just got such good size, good facilitator, such a good shooter that he's just an impossible matchup for a lot of guys. And it was just like bring a screening action and get a switch when you want. So the Bulls without Kobe White tonight, without Zach Collins who broke his wrist, it's their depth is really their biggest strength, and you're already seeing that thin out. So I was like optimistic about the Bulls in terms of like getting to playing high 30s games this year, but just without Kobe, I think it's going to be a really tough start to the season.
Yeah, it'll be a tough stretch because I mean, to me, I think he'll probably be your leading scorer this year because that's how dynamic he is just a 3-point shooter. I remember seeing Pistons fans like dangling like let's go trade for Colby White last deadline because some fans here locally they kind of they look at the backcourt situation and obviously Jaden Ivey is going to be out probably until at least December with a right knee arthroscopic surgery that he just had done. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see, being Central Division rivals. I think it should be a good game, but I do appreciate you making the time for me. I know it's opening night, really busy, but I want to give you the floor to plug and promote where people can find your work and what you do over there.
Yeah. If you're a Bulls sick, you can find us on YouTube, 5 CHGO Sports YouTube channel. I'm the beat writer. We do the podcast. So you can read everything I write at allchgo.com or find us on YouTube.
I appreciate you so much for making the time, Will. We're going to wrap up this podcast, you guys, and we'll see you guys probably around 11:30 at night for the post-game show. So doing a lot of podcasts this year. Appreciate you making the time as always, and we'll catch you guys soon. Take care.
Thanks for having me on.